Very good. So Sehar, she touched on the partner world and community. Why don't you answer the same question with a tie to that as well?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things we've noticed over the past 18 months is customers are being challenged to adopt technology faster. And I think a lot of customers are saying, okay, great, we need to start using AI. We need to use these tools that are going to help us accomplish our mission faster, but how do we do it? And then we're also on the technology side, we're seeing new services launching every day, new products launching every day, and new ISVs that are popping up specifically to support, and we work very closely with Shannon's organization, but supporting the defense mission outcomes and companies that are using technologies and partnering across the industry to do that. And so when I think about how do we support our customers faster and better and help them accomplish their mission, it's exactly what Shannon said. Understand what problem they're trying to solve, but within that, lean on the ecosystem. And this is one of the, being in distribution, this is one of the most valuable things I think we can offer, is helping tie partners together with different capabilities to get to a customer faster. And so one of the things that me and my team really focus on is how do we accelerate the time for a customer to adopt new technology? How do we identify all the technology that's out there that can solve a government problem, and how do we make it available faster? Is it getting it on contract? Is it helping them get accredited? Is it helping them leverage tools like AWS Marketplace? Is it platforming on a cloud like Amazon that's already going to check some of the security requirements that a customer is going to have? So that's kind of the role we're playing. And then we work across the industry with AWS very closely on what is the customer trying to accomplish, with partners like Effectual and J3 on how do we in the field solve those problems faster.
Pick it up. So let's bring Shannon back on as well. Let's talk a lot about the ecosystem. So we hear a lot about ecosystem selling. What does effective partner collaboration really look like in practice between AWS, Carahsoft, SIs, VARs, ISVs, and niche specialists? Sehar, why don't you take it first as we move Shannon onto the screen?
Sure. So I think it's oftentimes, and I think we heard this a lot as ecosystem partners over the last few years, even from, hey, let's consolidate how much government's using so many different types of partners. Why do we have to have 4 partners on an opportunity? Why do we have to have multiple SIs or multiple vendors that are involved in an opportunity? And I think the one thing that I think as industry we've all really proven is that no singular partner can do it alone successfully and to meet the speed that the government's trying to go. And so successful partnership, we all work collectively on a number of really big government contracts today, where I think in one of ours, there's like 15 or 16 different players throughout the life cycle of this contract. But everyone's playing a really unique role. And I think one thing that we've all been able to do well is get very focused on where we're delivering value. So, for example, we started working together to support a government contract 4 years ago, before it was even awarded. We worked with J3 from a development perspective, partner development capabilities, getting them ramped up to be able to be a small business partner on what was a $1 billion ceiling contract for a government customer. We got them set up before the contract even came out. They worked through a large SI, so we work closely with Shannon's team with the big SI that can take one of these big contracts. And then there were a lot of small business requirements that we helped coordinate between a lot of the small partners on it. And then on the back end, there was a lot of program management that we're currently doing on the account. So while these guys are in the field working on their niche capabilities to support the customer, the SI is delivering some of the capabilities, other partners are delivering some of it. We're helping program management that and all of the stack of 16 to 20 different ISVs that we're consolidating. So I think between, and this isn't a unique scenario. Josh and I have done this for years as well across a number of contracts. But successful partnership, I think, for a seller is, and partners that are most successful in supporting government customers today, no partner is going to be successful walking in and say, I can do everything. I'm going to be an expert at everything. I'm the smartest person in the world, and I can solve all of your problems. I think the most successful partners that are scaling the fastest in this space know when to reach out and collaborate with other partners and identify strengths that they can't deliver. And I think from a distribution standpoint, we see this every day, and we can see partners that are really successful that are leaning into other partnerships, and the ones that aren't growing as fast maybe aren't leveraging the strength of other people in the industry.
Sehar, I'm kind of curious, for smaller companies and emerging ISVs, for example, trying to grow presence in the federal and public sector markets, what have you seen that separates the firms that successfully scale from the ones that stall?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And we've worked with companies, some of the biggest companies when they were small. And I'm looking at a friend who was one of the first people I worked with at one of those types of companies, where they didn't have a big public sector practice, but they aligned with the right partners early on to grow together. And that was, 12, 13 years ago that we were in, or even longer than that for this particular company. But every day we're seeing ISVs, especially in this space, come up with commercially available solutions today that have a application for a government customer. And we play a role on helping get them into government's hands. And so the partners, I think ISVs that have a solution that solve a government problem, that are most successful, are leaning into these partnerships. And so I'll give you guys a couple examples, but we had an ISV that was platformed on AWS, a small to mid-size ISV that has a very impactful use case for DoD customers. They had a solution. Their struggle was, how do we get it to the government faster? They had one customer, and they were trying to they had a contract awarded, and then they needed to get Army customers across all of Army onto their platform and utilizing it. They already had the contract, they already had the deal. They needed help moving customers onto the platform. That was something that, with their resources as a small to mid-sized company, doing it alone was a big lift. They could hire 100 sales reps to go help them do that, or they could lean into the channel. And so they partnered very closely with AWS on helping open some of those doors into new customers, and they leaned very heavily on Carahsoft. And the decision that they decided to make was, hey, let me outsource as much as I can to Carahsoft and to Amazon. So let me utilize the platform. Let me have a solid foundation on Amazon from an infrastructure perspective. Let me lean on Carahsoft, who already has sales reps that can support me. Let me outsource everything that comes with managing AWS and the environment to Carahsoft. They can do it for me. They can negotiate all of the private pricing agreements, the back end stuff for me, and let us focus on the technical capabilities to continue to support this customer. So while we had Carahsoft people calling Army customers and very grassroots getting customers to adopt the solution, they were then out there and focused on implementing the solution for the customers. And so that, I think, is a really great example of, and I can tell that story 100 times with ISVs that have worked very successfully with Carahsoft and have been able to grow very quickly with us. And it goes back to something, I said before, we shouldn't focus on being an expert at every step of the process or everything. Focus on where you're really strong, and then lean into your partners where they can help you get there faster. Now, this is a company that's growing, 200, 300% every year. They're skyrocketing on AWS spend. They're adopting new customers very quickly, and none of that would have been possible if they didn't reach out and work with the partners that they have.
One salient thing that everyone in the room and watching on Zoom must do right now to take their sales career to the next level.
I was going to say something similar, but I'll pivot. I think know the challenges your customers are facing, whether that's you're asking them and having that conversation without trying to sell them something, and also staying current on what's going on. We're talking federal today, knowing the challenges they're facing on a daily basis. We talked about this on the podcast, but just having empathy for our customers and the immense pressure that they're under right now to meet mission outcomes, the hardest in our lifetime and probably ever. And then pairing that with technologies advancing so rapidly too. So customers are not only having to adapt to a new environment, but also ingest so much from a technology perspective. So as partners to our customers, be smart on the technology, understand the challenges they're facing. It's going to make you a better sales rep.
All right, so let's swing back, another bit of advice, and write these down. Some rapid, one final thing that you want to get across to the audience. Starting with Sehar, and then Peter, then Josh.
Okay, I'll go on my other favorite topic, partnerships. I think there's a lot, they both mentioned it, we've leveraged it ourselves, but just from other than investing in and attending things like the yacht party next week or the golf tournament, but also partners like AWS invest in partners, and Carahsoft invests in partners. And so I think if you're not today, there's a lot of funding available. You guys have leveraged a lot of it, getting set up as a partner. There's resources available. Identify one area, I think, where someone else in the industry can help you, because there's a lot of help out there, and I think most partners don't take full advantage of it. And so whether that's come to me and someone on the team, or someone at AWS, I think that's important to help you grow faster as well.